I thought so many times of, the right question to ask you to kick off the interview, like a million things in my mind. The number one is, Fernando Tatis Jr. is 22 years old. How is it possible that he's already going on his third manager?
Yeah, my expectation is his next manager will last a long, long time. That's a priority. You've heard me say it before. There's real valuable in stability.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to find that in the dugout, for various reasons, not the least of which is all the, scrutiny that goes on a manager publicly on a day-to-day basis and how much everybody cares about winning. But I think if we get the right person, we've got every chance to give Tatis and his teammates a manager that's going to last, 5 years and more. That's what I hope. That's what I expect.
Now you mentioned stability, and I know in several interviews yesterday you made it clear that AJ Preller has 100% your trust, your faith, and that he is going to pick the next manager as his decision. Why is AJ Preller the right guy to make that decision by himself, considering what's happened with the last two managers?
Even with the hiring of Andy Green and then Jace, the process was thorough. Neither one of them worked out beyond 2 years, and we have to own that. And of course, one common thread is that they were both first-time managers and both relatively young. And we're aware of that, but particularly in the case of Jace, I was heavily involved in the interview process, and I completely believed he was the right man to lead this team, which we knew was going to be talented, to the level he led it to last year when he was number 2 in Manager of the Year award, to the first couple of exciting months this year. And then obviously we just completely deteriorated in every way. What happened at the end of this year, I hope our players, our fans, everybody in the organization and in the city never has to go through again. But it was a true organizational failure. And, I've certainly figuratively looked in the mirror long and hard and what might I have done differently during the course of the season, as have, all the key people in our organization. But it went wrong this year. A talented group of players that I believe played hard and cared and loved their relationship with the fans. I don't want to see any of us have to experience what we did, from a sports perspective. I mean, let's recognize this is sports. It's not life and death. But, it was, in the business of sports, it was a real failure by our organization. And it's incumbent on us to completely reverse that next year. And I expect we will, starting with the hiring that we're, starting down the path of now.
Do you get the sense now? I mean, I'm sure you're learning more about your team and your players that perhaps they needed an experienced manager. They needed someone who's been there and done that and done this before and can get in their face when things were starting to deteriorate. Do you think the fact that you've had back-to-back rookie managers has hurt some of the players in this team?
Experience is valuable. There's no doubt about it. It's not the only quality we're looking for. I've been involved in numerous businesses and charitable organizations. And just because somebody is my age of 60 doesn't mean that person is great.
Right.
Or 70 or 50 or pick your age, but there is value in experience. When we hired Jace, we talked to a number of people with experience also, and we just felt he was the right fit for us. But all things being equal, experience is a clear and significant plus, and that will be factored into the decision we make when it comes to hiring the manager.
Will you be, so you'll be part of this process as well? Again, this time around, are you going to encourage AJ to go the experienced route? I mean, do you think perhaps he has to change what he's looking for in his manager?
I don't need to encourage him. AJ and I know each other very well. He has communicated to me for a long, long time the value of experience. Mm-hmm. We thought last time, if we're going to hire a first-time manager, we surround him with experienced coaches.
Right.
So this is not a failure of the manager. There are pieces of blame for this season that run in a number of directions, including myself. But Marty, everything is eminently fixable. We've spent weeks now reflecting on this year, probably as much as human beings can, and what mm-hmm. went wrong, what we need to learn, and, what we need to do to prevent it, but also, not letting the pendulum swing back too far in the other direction. You got to find, that winning path that works. And there's different formulas to it. But a part of, how we approach things next year will be determined by the manager. His vision and, making sure that the vision of the manager matches that of AJ and myself. But it's AJ's hire. I mean, we talk and brainstorm and have for a long time. We know what each other cares about. And, the experience word came up 2 years ago in this process. Mm-hmm. It's come up now. I don't want to exclude a first-time manager who may become a Hall of Famer just because that person is 42 years old. But again, the value of experience is clear. It's obvious. I was downstairs watching 2 70-some-odd-year-old managers, in Houston with Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa.
Right.
But not every 70-year-old is one of those 2 guys either.
Right. No, you're right. But one of the guys that you interviewed a couple of years ago, Ron Washington, was someone that AJ knows from Texas. He's had World Series experience, back-to-back World Series experience. I'm not sure if Bruce Bochy is interested in managing again after all this, but you have guys who have done or who have commanded respect from their players. And they would think that would, I'm wondering, like, how does it go over with that group of players, guys that are coming back? Like, here you go. Here's a 3rd straight first-time manager.
Depends who it is. And again, experience is high on the list of things that we value, mm-hmm. but it's not the only thing. So we will get the right person. But I'm not going to have a litmus test of, that person must fit this certain demographic. Too limiting. There's no reason to do it. We're throwing the net out pretty wide. We've already talked about a number of names. One thing we do know, it is a really choice job to manage this group of players in this city with this fan base. It is a great opportunity for the right manager. And I know I hear from fans. I know a lot of fans say, well, give me anybody with experience and I'll be happy. But
right.
No matter who we hire as a manager, if we start off next year 15-4, we're going to have a happy group of baseball fans in San Diego. And if we start out 11-12, as an example, we'll have people questioning, why aren't we better? And that's precisely the same outcome. I think we would see whether the manager is 28 or 98.
Do you feel there's a sense of accountability on this team, and not just whether it's the players, whether it's the front office? I mean, you came out yesterday saying it's on you, it starts with you, but do you get the sense, or is that same accountability across the board?
I've talked to many of the players. They feel accountable for sure. What I was saying, and people have talked about, the 2 years ago when Tatis got hurt, and it didn't seem like the effort was there as much as you would want it to be. I thought the effort was there from our players. I think though that what happened in the dugout this year, everybody was not pulling on the same end of the rope. Decisions would be questioned, and I think you have successful seasons when everybody's by and large pulling on the same end of the rope. And we didn't capture that this year. And it's more than just the manager,
right.
But it is an issue that we will be talking about in the interview process with the many experienced candidates that we ultimately talk to.
Now, I don't even know what the answer to this is, but you mentioned the divide, like things were allowed to go ahead and fester. And normally it's the manager who takes charge of that. But if not, is that not AJ's job? And I'll just give you an example. There was a manager from a different team that pointed something out to me. They would watch Padres games, and they would notice that Jace Tingler was on one side of the dugout, Larry Rothschild was on the other. And he said his manager was always right next to him. And it would seem like something had been brewing for a while. Isn't that not on the GM, the president of baseball ops, to go ahead and fix something when things aren't cohesive?
Well, the dugout dynamic, I don't know. Some managers like to sit and stay next to their bench coach. Mm-hmm. Some the pitching coach, some it might be the third base coach. So I don't think there's any hard and fast rules to that. Okay. What I will tell you is organizationally, and we didn't pull all the levers that we might have to stop the slide that we were on. It's difficult in baseball, to explain, wow, this is a team that went 9-0 on a homestand earlier this year, and then finished the season, losing 2/3 of their games for a long period of time. But, with perfect hindsight, and we've talked about it, there were more things that we could have done. Whether they would have worked or not, that's, something we'll never know. But things, again, the most straightforward way I can explain it from what I saw is we did not have players, coaches, manager, front office, owner, all pulling on the same end of the rope this year. And that is eminently fixable. And I can promise you it'll be fixed before the start of the season next year.
Listen, I appreciate your time, Peter. I know you've been asked all these same questions by other members of the media. I guess I'd ask you this: is this a must year? Is this a must-win year for AJ Preller? You're going into what I think season number 8, and there's been 0 winning seasons in a full 162.
No, it's not a must-win year. I mean, things happen in this game. I'm, as confident in AJ as I could possibly be. His set of skills for this job, to me, are exceptional, and that is really an unshakable belief that I have in AJ. We asked him several years ago to take a step back and, start to build kind of from scratch an organization. When we, whatever it was now, 4 or 5 years ago, when we signed all the minor league teenagers, and I look at where we are right now. I look at where we are right now, and we have a very strong farm system, player development, scouting. It can always get better, and we aspire to make it better. And I think, the missing piece right now, obviously, is we don't have a manager and a full complement of coaches. I believe if we get that right, we will continue to be a force for years to come. And I'm as solid with AJ as I could be. I believe in him. I trust him. I love the fact that he's unafraid to be bold from time to time. And some of those bold moves have worked out for us fantastically. Some of them with perfect hindsight. Maybe the other team got the better end of a trade or what have you. That's going to happen. But I think we have I think we have a great group of core players, and I expect that they'll be back. And we'll supplement that core group, and we'll show up next year, and we'll credibly be in the conversation to bring the World Series championship to San Diego. That's what it's all about. And AJ is the person that's going to do it.
All righty, Peter, I really appreciate your time, as always.
Always great to talk to you, Marty.